Reacher has been a massive hit so far, and with every season it just gets better and better. Or does it? Now that season 3 Reacher is finished, I wanted to rank all 3 seasons from worst to best, and make sure you drop your rankings down in the comments so we can talk about it. Coming in at number 3 is Reacher Season 2. Now I think this season does a lot of things really good, but at the same time I think it does a lot of things not so good. Like the story just felt a little bit more rushed than the other seasons, unlike season 1, which had a lot of time to breathe and develop its mystery of what's going on, what this world is like, who these characters are. Season 2 kind of felt like it was rushing to the next action beat without fully fleshing out the actual story that it was trying to tell. And a lot of that does have to do with the fact that we go to the past so frequently and for so long in this season. It felt like we had 2 separate story threads, one in the present day and one in the past, and when you're in each one for so long and at the same time, it kind of takes away from the other one that they were trying to tell. So while I get why they did that, and I think it works good to a degree, I think that we spent too much time in the past that it took away from what we were doing in the present. Now another thing that I had a problem with this season, well, it wasn't really a problem, it was more so just didn't do it as well as seasons 1 or 3, and that's the supporting cast. Now all the new characters did bring their different characteristics, their different personalities, which was great to see, and it did work. It just didn't work as well as the other seasons. Neegly is always awesome and so likable. I love her character and I'm glad that she's getting a spin-off, but it just felt like everyone else just wasn't as memorable as almost every other supporting cast in every other season. And this one also had a lot of pacing issues, like some parts just really dragged, while others felt like they just skipped over key developments way too fast, and once again, I think that had to do with the fact that we went back and forth between the timelines. Now, as far as what did work for me for season 2 was the action. The action in season 2 just took things up a notch. No. From season 1 to season 2, it was like 2 or 3 notches, and that's hard to do, but they did it. All the supporting cast held their own and made you believe that this was a team that had a past together, that had fights together in the past, and are able to do that and have that chemistry together in the present. It was just really cool to see and very entertaining to see. So while season 2 did have a lot of great action, some of the best in the series, it just didn't have the same impact as the other 2 seasons. Now coming in at a very close number 2 is Reacher Season 3. This season took everything that didn't work in season 2, refined it and made it even better, but it doesn't quite live up to season 1. Now this season had a much better storytelling structure than season 2. The mystery was a lot more engaging this time around, and there was just a better balance between action and detective work, and it just made it feel a lot more like Reacher Season 1 and everything that we loved from Reacher Season 1. It just felt really fresh and very new to the series because yes, he had to, kind of play a different role for different situations in the past seasons, but in this season, that's kind of the main thing that he's doing. He had to infiltrate this organization and stay undercover to figure out what's going on and how to get his mission done. And it just made the season so much more engaging, and it made the tension so much higher in every single episode, especially with those cliffhangers, especially when something goes wrong and he has to figure out how to fix it immediately or else he's gonna get figured out and the mission is blown. It just added a little bit more depth to what we got in the past 2 seasons. And the story didn't feel rushed like season 2, and the character moments felt a lot more earned. And like I said before, there were a lot higher stakes, the threats felt bigger, and there was just a lot more sense of danger for Reacher and everyone that he was working with because of how personal it was and how the undercover aspect of the season worked so well. And it's not like we didn't go back to the past again in this season, because we did, and that was honestly probably one of the better episodes of the season in episode 4 when we go back to see why Reacher wants to stop this bad guy. And let me tell you, that episode by itself was all the motivation that we needed. It showed more of an emotional side to Reacher and a more vulnerable side to Reacher. And honestly, this season, season 3, showed us a side of Reacher that we've never seen before, right? The emotional stakes that are at hand, what he went through and why he wants revenge, but also at the same time, we got to see a more vulnerable side physically. We've never seen Reacher have to hold his own too much against someone else, but in this season, they made sure to show us that he can be beat and he will be beat if he is not careful. And that just added so much more depth and tension to the character and to the series and to the season. Like I said before, it took everything that didn't work in season 2 and cranked it up to give us something a little bit more fresh and kind of changed the formula up just enough to keep this series going and keep it relevant. And also the villain in season 3 is easily the best in the series so far in my opinion. Like I said, in episode 4 we got that flashback to see just how evil this dude is and why Reacher needs to stop him. He has this really threatening presence whenever he's on screen, and you just feel that everyone that's in the room when he's in the room is in danger and no one is safe, and that is kind of what you want from a villain. And then you give him that backstory of why we all hate him, and it just makes a really good villain and very good motivation to finish this season out. And the final episode of this season is easily the most epic of the season, but not only that, but it's probably one of the best episodes of the series so far. And then you have the fight with Polly and Reacher, and I gotta be honest with you, I thought this fight was gonna end very quickly and I was gonna be a little bit let down by this. No. Half the episode is them fighting and going everywhere you could possibly imagine and doing everything that you could possibly imagine, and it felt earned, right? This felt like a final boss because they were beefing the entire season, right? They hated each other from the jump, and it just felt like they handled that fight and that confrontation so well, and it just felt earned, it felt great, and everything that you would want in a finale of this season. Now, as far as what didn't work for me, there were a few things, like it just didn't feel like as fresh as season 1, because at this point we're season 3, we're 3 seasons in, we know what Reacher can do, we've seen what he can do in the past, and he does some great things in season 3, but it just isn't as shocking or as grand as we have come to expect, or it just didn't feel as fresh because we are 3 seasons in. Not really a fault to season 3, it's just what's gonna happen to a show like this when you're this many seasons in. And while the season was a lot better than season 2, there were still a lot of story beats and just things that happened that felt a little bit too familiar. For example, the love interest. I felt like the love interest in season 3 was so freaking forced. I went into season 3 hoping that we wouldn't get that, because we can already see the story beats being repeated throughout the seasons, and I need something new, I need a shake up. And honestly, just not having a love interest in a season would do wonders for changing the formula up, because if we expect more seasons of this story to continue to do the same things as the past seasons, it's gonna get stale real quick. So it kind of dropped the ball as far as I'm concerned, as far as having a romance in the season. Well, it wasn't bad, it just felt like it came out of nowhere, it was forced, and I think the season would have been better without it. Overall though, season 3 really did feel like a return to form for Reacher, going back to what I loved about season 1, but it still didn't quite match the magic of the first season. And coming in at number 1 is Reacher season 1. Season 1 of Reacher is hands down the best of the series so far, and there are a lot of reasons why. It was the perfect introduction to who Jack Reacher was. The show really wasted no time proving that Alan Ritchson is Jack Reacher. There's no doubt about it, especially if you watch one episode of season 1, you are sold. And it also had a great balance of mystery and action. So season 1 wasn't just about Reacher kicking ass and showing what he can do. There was a mystery about that character, what was going on in that town, and just honestly this whole entire world. And that's what you get when you start a new show like this. But they did it so well, where they spoon feed you little bits of information of uncovering who Jack Reacher is. Season 1 had a really big First Blood kind of vibe to it, and I think that's what resonated with me so much with this. Who is this guy? Who is this drifter? Why is he being arrested? You're as lost as everyone else in the show. It just gets its hooks in you and it does not let go. And that's why you keep watching it the entire season, because you want to see what's going on and you want to learn more about Reacher. And then you have Roscoe and Finley. These two are fantastic supporting characters just right off the bat. They brought a lot of depth, a lot of humor, and the different personalities that they bring and the way that they interact off of Reacher, very different, and I think that just adds more to the show, right? You want to see him with Roscoe, you want to see him with Finley, and build that relationship that he has with both of them. They just felt like a very tight-knit group, and I think that having it so small and so intimate and just how different they all are and they all want the same thing really drove the season also. And a lot of the time, the dialogue between the characters was the highlight of every episode. Once again, going back to that tight-knit family, it worked because of how they were able to act off of each other and whatever they wanted to do, and just that group. Reacher, Roscoe, Finley really made this season work. And the reason that we watch Reacher is for the action, and season 1 does not disappoint. Reacher is this giant dude who can do a lot of damage, but at the same time, he has to work for it. It's not like he just steamrolls everybody that he walks into, and he has to use his mind on top of his muscles. And one of the best episodes of the season is when he infiltrates the house. That shows all of the training that he's had in the past and shows us as viewers what he is capable of, not just by fighting people, but using tactics and using strategy to get the job done. It added so much depth to the character instead of just having this guy who's this giant brute who just uses his fists to do the talking. No, he can do it all, and that episode and this season laid the groundwork to show us why we love Reacher and why this show should continue as long as they do it right, just like season 1. So that's my ranking of all 3 seasons of Reacher. Season 2 had the weakest story and supporting cast, while season 3 improved a lot, but it didn't quite reach the top, and season 1 remains the best of the series so far. And remember to drop your rankings of all 3 seasons of Reacher down in the comments below. And also, have you heard about the talks about Alan Ritchson possibly playing Batman in the DCU? I made a video all about why he would make a great Batman. Check it out right here. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.